Good evening, everyone. Welcome to episode 6 of The Roast Show. Josh, why are you making so much noise, bro?
I don't know.
Jesus,
Am
man. Anyway, welcome to episode 6 of The Roast Show. Oh, come on. What the...
That wasn't me that time.
Well, definitely me. Oh, hold on a minute. I know what it is. Let me just mute my background. Oh, every damn time, dude. I swear to God, there's always something. Anyway, let's try this a third time. Maybe that'll be the fucking charm. Welcome to episode 6 of The Roast Show. If you're watching, you see the title, Inside of an American Soldier. And the reason that we're calling it that is our guest tonight is you were Sergeant, right? When you left? Sergeant Christopher Herff. Well, let me ask you a question. Are you still Sergeant Christopher Herff, even though you're no longer in the military?
Yes.
Oh,
Once
okay.
you earn a title, and as long as you're, well, I don't know if it's your dishonorably discharged, you lose it or whatever, but once you're a soldier, you're always a soldier.
Gotcha. Okay. So, anyway, we are here with Sergeant Christopher Herff. He is going to be talking a little bit about his experiences of being in the military. I just figured we're always doing something kind of stupid or crazy, and we figure we bring it down a little bit this week and, kind of do something a little bit more serious, a little bit more real, a little bit more, things that people may actually, be a little more interested in, when it comes to the lives of the people of our military. So, welcome, man.
Yeah, thank you. Good to be here.
Josh, you got anything you want to throw in here since you're being all quiet?
What's up?
Hey, you nailed that one, Josh. Good job. So anyway, you want to just give us a little bit of information about yourself and where you're from, kind of a little bit about your background, and we'll get into this a little bit more.
All right. 40 years old. Currently work for a railroad. Growing up in the Philadelphia area pretty much all my life except for my first 2 years. Joined the military when I was 29. Joined basically because kind of wanted to reboot my life. Kind of wanted to make sure that when people want to reboot their lives, they run away. Well, I wanted to make sure I could run away and not just tuck tail and come back home right away. So I joined the military. So figured it'd be a way to transform myself and see the world, I guess.
So, how was that experience for you, though? Were you excited to do it? But were you scared?
Wasn't scared. I just, I've always been a very patriotic person. I've always been very proud of my country, and I kind of wanted to do something for it, too. So, I felt like it was my way of giving back to the country for all the great things that the country has done for me.
Okay. Well, that's pretty cool, man. I remember the day well, man, when you told me you were going, man. It was insane. It was a little crazy, and you got drunk as hell. So, yeah, that was a good night. So, you kind of already covered, what made you want to join the military, being that you're patriotic and you kind of wanted to reboot. But when you signed up for military, how did you deal with what was going on with basic and AIT and any other training that you had to go through?
All right. Well, when you go to basic, they basically cut a lot of your privileges, and immediately they want to soldier you up. So they cut your contact from the home, and you basically are eat, sleep, breathe Army while you're in there, while they're doing the training for you. They give you a smart book, and that's your only book that you can read for a while. Basically, it's 9 weeks. Well, there's a 1 week of reception before that as well, but there was 9 weeks of just straight out training, learning how to use different weapons, learning how to soldier on, learning how to march, how to march in formation and with cadences. And I'm kind of losing my train of thought here, but when you join the military, it's not something that you want to do on a whim. you will just be doing nothing but military while you're in basic training.
Well, let me throw this out there real quick before it just popped up. Speaking of basic training, I know I hear a lot of times being out on the road and stuff, a lot of military people talk, I listen to stories and stuff like that. And I've been hearing that lately the military and basic training, there's this thing going around that you get like a 15-minute break card or whatever it may be.
Not while I went through. I went through in 2006. It was during while they were surging troops in Iraq at the time. So there's no 15-minute break. Everything was training focused. Everything.
Right. Okay. I just wanted to find that and clarify that.
I mean,
nowadays they allow that.
Even when you go to eat, they have a certain procedure when you go to eat. You march in formation to the dining facility. You wait your turn to get into the dining facility. You had to hold your tray a certain way. You had to answer questions to the drill sergeant while you're waiting in a line to get your food. If you get the question wrong, you go to the end of the line. And the significance of that is when the last soldier sits down, you only had like a minute and a half, 2 minutes to eat. And when that 2 minutes is up, it didn't matter if you're the first person sitting down or the last person sitting down. Everyone's done eating. So it behooved you to know the knowledge from the book that they gave you. Otherwise, you'd be sent to the back of the line and you'd be one of the people that have to scarf down all the food, barely tasting the food. So it's just everything was training based. Everything. Absolutely everything. And the only time that you weren't possibly was at night, but even then you have fire guard, you had what they call charge of court or CQ, where they basically were making sure people weren't sneaking out at night. So and then there was weapons guard, because when you're going through basic, they issue you a rifle and you had to put your rifles away from the night. So somebody had to guard the weapons, somebody had to guard the beds, the fire watch, make sure nobody was sneaking out of the bed at night, and you had to report every body every hour on fire guard. And then the CQ answer the phone or there was an overnight drill sergeant present as well, so you'd have to answer anything that the drill sergeant needed during the night. So I mean, just about everything that you do had some sort of training involved, even during the nighttime.
Would you say that was one of the hardest things you've ever had to do?
Basic training, it was definitely difficult. Was it the most hardest thing to do? No. Is it for everyone? No. I can definitely see, especially if you're a hard-headed person and you're like, I'm always right and I don't like being told what to do. It's definitely not for people like that.
Josh, you're fucked.
I'm like, definitely.
So, what kind of stuff did you do in AIT? I mean, I know this was basically, all in basic, but what did you do in AIT?
AIT, let me explain what AIT is. First off, Advanced Individual Training. When you join the military, they ask you what kind of military occupational specialty, they call it an MOS, what kind of job that you want to do besides soldiering while you're in the service. So when I joined, I originally wanted to go for computers, but then after I passed what they called the ASVAB test, they said I could join any military occupational specialty that they allowed entry-level people in. So I said, you know what? I kind of know what I want. Let me look at the book. And when I looked at the book, I saw broadcast journalist. And I said, well, that's kind of what I went to college for, but I never really kind of finished it. So it gave me an opportunity to kind of revisit something that I wanted to do back in college and I kind of never finished. And I said, well, maybe this is my way to get back into it. So with AIT, the Advanced Individual Training, which immediately following basic training, at the 10 weeks of basic training. And that was, I think it was 11 or 12 weeks of advanced individual training that was done at a different base. My basic was done at Fort Jackson. My AIT was done at Fort George Meade in Maryland. And that I learned basic announcing skills, I learned radio skills, and I learned video editing as well. So What was the original question? I'm sorry, I kind of sidetracked, but
Like-
then I had to kind of cover the background for it first.
Like, what was, what were the things you had to do in AIT?
Okay, so I kind of covered a little bit of it already.
Yeah.
Basically, AIT for me, and it varies for everyone because it depends on what military occupational specialty that you choose. AIT for me was a lot of military schooling. And military school is again different than regular school. You have a company that you join, that you get transferred to. I'm trying to put it in civilian terms as best as I can. You're put into a company, and then you march to the school, and then you attend the classes, and then when you're done the school, you get in the formation again, and you march back, and then your evenings are spent studying for the school. And then again, your privileges are very limited when you first get there, and then as you spend time there, you earn more and more privileges. Like for example, when I first got to AIT, I wasn't allowed out in the weekends, but then after I forget how many weeks it was, I was allowed out for one overnight on a Friday night, and then eventually was allowed out on a Friday night and a Saturday night as well. You kind of earn your privileges as you go, and the way you earn your privileges is not just spending the time there, but being a good soldier at the same time. We also had field training exercises while we were in AIT, so sometimes our weekends were cut a little short to do those field training exercises as well.
How long were you in AIT for? Like, what's the duration of it?
I started in September and I was done by early December.
Okay, so it's a couple months long. About probably about the same as basic, right?
Basic was about 10 weeks long. AIT was just a little bit longer.
So about 12 weeks. I think that's what I just came up with, about 12 weeks. So
yeah, well, that was for my occupational specialty though. Some of them, like if you just go in and you're just straight infantry, you don't get advanced individual training because your basic was your training. You are a soldier. But if you go for another occupational specialty, some of them are longer than others. Some of them are 6 months long. I think if I would have went for that, the computer specialist kind of person, it would have been a lot more than 3 months long.
Okay. When you left AIT, what was your rank?
I was still private. Second. Hold on. I was a PB2, private second class.
Okay. Now, when you were released from AIT, what do you do after that?
After AIT, I was assigned to a unit. I was transferred down permanently to Fort Bragg, North Carolina. With the 27th Pad was my first unit. And with that unit, when I was assigned to it, a large part of it was I had PT, physical training, every morning. Then got released for breakfast and for getting ready for the day. Had to report to work by 9. Got released for lunch. For me, it was some office work. Sometimes it was going down to the motor pool and checking our Humvees for the day. For me as a broadcaster, I was assigned stories that I would have to go to these different units and tell their story with a video camera. And me, I was a video journalist. I went with a video camera. I interviewed my subject matter experts, and I would take that video, bring it back to the office, assemble the video on the computer, get it approved by my higher ups, and then upload it to like a central hub. They call it DIVIDS, DVIDS. DividsHub.net is where all the military tends to upload all their video and print and pictures. So I was producing a lot of that for the broadcast end. But then we also had, again, field training exercises. We had regular soldier training that we did on a regular basis. So was it a straight office job? No. Was it all Army all the time? Absolutely. Everything had a military edge to it. But
now, speaking of that, I'm from what I'm listening to what you're saying, I'm gathering that the military it seemed to have a lot of structure. And do you find that before you went in the military that your life was pretty much already structured, or did you get that you've gotten more structured with your life going into the being experiencing the military?
It's absolutely a good question. And I think before joining the military, I was a lot less organized, a lot less. I had a job for a couple of years, but I was, I was kind of semi job hopping, but kind of not. I mean, I had a job that I liked that I had for about 3 or 4 years. That was probably my longest job at the time. Mm-hmm. But I think, it did give me a lot more organization. It taught me how to think ahead. My wife even teases me. I'll call it contingency planning. I'll think ahead. What could possibly go wrong, and what could I do to overcome what could go wrong? Just about everything I do, I think contingency planning now. So if I think I'm going to go on a road trip, what happens if the car breaks down? I'll make sure I have flares in the car. Something I never did before. I just hop in the car and go. Now I think about, well, what if this happens, or what if that happens? And I'm always planning ahead for that. Gotcha.
All right. So being that you're kind of like thinking ahead and getting things all together and kind of knowing what you where you want to go, do you also put into that thought process the steps that it's going to take to get to the ultimate end of where you wanted to be?
Yeah, I do try to plan things out. I do. I mean, I kind of answered that with already, but I have to agree that I do a lot more planning than I used to.
Okay. Well, once you got finished with that whole section of things, and you were deployed, you ended up going to Iraq. What was it like for you to leave your family for that amount of time?
It was difficult. Now, for me, I got married to my first marriage very shortly before I got tagged to deploy. So I had that added stressor, I guess is the way to call it. But I joined in 2006, in June of 2006. I got married in June of 2007, and by August of 2007, I was deployed. And basically, I got married, and then almost immediately, as soon as I got back home, back to Fort Bragg, we got called to a meeting. We got told we're deploying in 2 months. So that was kind of an added factor. Because my first wife had just moved down to North Carolina, so we had to make a lot of decisions on whether or not she was going to stay or if she was going to go back and stay with family in Pennsylvania. What's nice is the modern soldier has a lot of luxuries that soldiers didn't have in the past, whereas we have the internet access. We have, USOs. If you don't have a computer that you can stop at, you can send an email, or you can do video chat. That was nice, but I mean, it's not like basic or AIT where you have a lot more limited contact with home. I actually think I talked to my family more overseas than I did while I was in basic or AIT.
I know. I talked to you more. I think you and I video chatted multiple times while you were over there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What was difficult was not being able to be at home for certain events. I had friends get married, and I had no choice but to not attend. Kind of losing my train of thought here, but
that's okay. I mean, we kind of understood where you were talking about. I mean, anytime you got to leave your family, it's hard. It doesn't matter when you have to do it. It's hard either way. Now, how long were you gone again?
For my first deployment, I was gone from August of 2007 until July of 2008. Where I deployed to Baghdad, Iraq, the Camp Liberty, for deployment. That what I did there, and I guess I'm going to assume that's what your next question is going to be. What did I do while I was deployed? A lot of what I did.
Well, how did you cope with it? With being gone for that long.
Yeah, but I would embed with units that were going outside the wire. They'd have an extra seat in their Humvee, or actually extra two. Usually, they would have a print journalist go with us and a video journalist. And so they would have at least 2 seats available on a Humvee, and we would hop in with them and then follow them along for the day. Kind of be like a fly on the wall, except for the fact that we would find somebody that was knowledged with the mission. And I always try to find a lesser experienced, lesser ranked person. We call them Joes. Find a Joe, and we'll find somebody that's an officer, somebody that's brass, that's knowledge with what's going on. So that way I have the perspective of somebody that is been in the military for about 10, 15 years, and I get the experience of somebody that was, about the same rank as me, that was kind of green behind the ears and just learning about what's going on. Get the perspective of both sides. But I would follow along. We tended to embed with military police units or civil affairs units. Basically, the whole reason that they have public affairs is because the media sometimes likes to show us as nothing but kicking indoors. Yeah. And there's a whole lot that the military does that is good for the local nationals out there, that is not just the kicking in the doors stuff. They don't kick in the doors unless they have a reason to kick in the doors. Yeah. So they want to show all the good things that we do out there as well. So
So being that that's what you do, what you did while you were there, did you have any kind of interaction with, say, like, Fox News media people that would go over there and, talk about like things going on with the wars and stuff like that?
There were media embeds over there. Absolutely. I saw Geraldo. I never.
Like, what I'm saying is like a specific, like, I don't know, journalists that they send over, like Fox News would send, one of their popular
Geraldo.
People, send them over there. Would you like interact with somebody like that doing what you're doing?
I've seen Geraldo. It wasn't my job to be the media embed for them. That was more of a liaison's job, of somebody to work with that media embed to work with units. It was my job to tell the Army story rather than to deal with the media that wanted to tell the public media's version of the story.
Okay.
I tended to, I would say hi to them, or I didn't get a whole lot of involvement with them. Laura Logan, I think, was CBS at the time. I think so. I met Laura Logan. I met Geraldo. The unit I was augmenting on my first deployment was from Puerto Rico, the 113th MPAD, and so Geraldo took a extra special heartwarming love for that unit because they were also from Puerto Rico. So we got to be in like one of his like Christmas morning hello specials. I wouldn't say it's special, but like how they have like the little like blurbs in the beginning of their shows, and they'll show like we're here live in Iraq. We got to be in one of those where we sang Feliz Navidad.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah, that's kind of
cool. So I did I meet famous people? Yeah. Did I get to talk to them a whole lot? No. Being a lower ranked person, I kind of kept my place, and I talked to them if I was talked to. I would say hi, or the normal cordial stuff, but that wasn't my part of the job to work with them. So I didn't do a whole lot of involvement with them.
What was life like in Iraq? And I know it's going to be completely different than it was here, but what did you try to do to like try to normalize your life, to have some sort of normalcy, sense of like grounding while you were there?
All right. My first deployment, I hung around with my battle buddies a lot. When we got free time, which one thing I should explain: when you're deployed, you're basically at work every single day. There's no such thing as a weekend.
Mm-hmm.
We typically put in at least 12 hours a day when we worked.
Wow.
So when we had a little bit of downtime, they did have like a coffee shop on the base, or
Wow.
some guys got fishing poles sent to them. They would go fishing. My second deployment, I actually found a morale, welfare, and recreation facility, and I found that they were looking for a karaoke host, and so I got to be a karaoke host once a week.
Hey, look at there. Same as he was doing here.
You think I was doing here? Yeah,
Yep.
I did some karaoke DJing back at home. So I found a karaoke place that needed a DJ, and I said, well, I used to do that, so it's very easy for me to adapt into it. So I got to do some of that.
Nice.
Now you asked what it's like in Iraq. A lot of my time was spent inside the wire, inside basically the areas that were deemed safe for us to walk around freely.
Okay.
Going outside the wire, it was like passing a portal and just seeing what another country is like. The roads were different. The street signs were in Arabic and in English, and the English wasn't always the way that we see it spelled in the media. So, it was weird seeing a sign. I'd be like, well, that's spelled different. But then I'm like, technically, there's no correct way to translate it from the Arabic language to English. And just spelling it phonetically is technically correct. So it was weird seeing different spellings of what I was used to seeing on the street signs when they had it in English. There was a lot of... they build with what they have there, but it was pretty clear to me that it was a different way of life. I don't want to badmouth the country in any way, but it definitely, I definitely knew I wasn't in America. It was very dusty. It was, there's a lot of stuff all over the place, to put it politely. I don't think most Americans would like to live in those sort of conditions. From what I understand, a lot of homes only had electricity for a couple hours a day. This was at the time I was there. People go crazy when the electric's gone for 15 minutes here. So
That's true.
There's a lot of things that they put up with over there that we wouldn't put up with over here. And it's amazing. It takes a really strong, patient people to put up with the things that they put up with.
How did you have any interaction with any of the civilians over there, like kids?
Any of the locals? What was that like?
It was interesting. The children, by the time I got there, the children already knew that they could come up and ask the soldiers for candy. So my number one question from the kids were, Mister, can I have some chocolate? Unfortunately, about 80% of the year, it's above 100 degrees there. So chocolate, if I had it, would have already been melted in my pocket. So most of the time I couldn't give them chocolate, but if I knew I was going outside the wire, and I tried to find a couple of things to give to the kids. I've given Beanie Babies to the kids, toys that came over in care packages. As far as the adults, I found them pleasant. I found that they were just like you and me. They have a way of loving life. They have a care for a fellow person. I don't know how else to say it. I mean, they're just like you and me, really.
Well, that's, it makes sense. I mean, what's so different about them, honestly, besides the fact that they don't live in America and they don't speak our language. Other than that, I mean, they're still human.
Yeah.
You know, you have to treat them with respect, or well, I mean, just like here, you bump into some guy in Philly and call him an asshole, you're going to be throwing down pretty soon. You just can't do that. You have to treat him with respect. I mean, we're all not Josh. We don't just talk shit to people and everyone just backs down from you. You know exactly what I'm talking about. So what is you like right now? You are an engineer for Conrail, right?
Yeah, I do work for the railroad. I don't have the seniority yet to hold an engineer. I am licensed to be an engineer, but right now I'm a conductor. And, right now what I'm holding is a remote control position. I'm on a one-man crew in a yard, controlling a big freight train going back and forth.
Gosh, sounds like fun. See, me and Josh were having a conversation about this the other night. I told him, I said, no, I said, I don't think he's driving trains right now. I said, I actually think he's running a remote right now. And he's like, well, what is a remote? And I said, he remote control drives a train. And he goes, well, can't he just sit at home and do that? I said, no, he's got to be on the yard to do it.
I got to be able to tie on the brakes. I got to be able to pull the cutting levers. I got to be able to make sure that there's room on the track to be able to move them. So depends on how the trains come in, how they're laid out. Sometimes I got to keep the air brakes on and keep the air streamlined throughout the whole train. And then some other guys that come before me might have done that, so I can't shove back on the track until I turn in the air on the track.
All right, being as that we're on the train thing now.
Uh-oh.
What exactly, if any, did the military have any persuasion on you to go for this position with the train thing versus pursuing, media stuff or like journalism or anything like that? Like, what made you say, I want to operate trains?
Big difference is that before the military, I had no problem working in an office. And I could sit in a cubicle and I could stare at a computer screen and I could type, no problem. I did it getting out of the military because I didn't have a job lined up immediately. And I decided that was no longer for me. I liked the different things that I could do every single day. So number one, that changed me. I can no longer be an office person. I like being outdoors. Just like I said before, how the military is not for everyone, the railroad's not for everyone. I'm outdoors.
Mm-hmm.
I like being outdoors now because that means one day I could be absolutely beautiful weather. The next day it could be, piss poor rain dumping on my head. But no 2 days are exactly the same. Even though I'm in a yard job right now on the railroad, no 2 days are exactly the same. So yeah, the military did change me in that regard. It prepared me for a job that not everybody could do. I mean, not everybody can do what you do, Josh. You're over the road driving around the country all the time.
Outside, out there, I like my office window. It's huge.
Yeah. It's always changing.
This window's even bigger than mine. I do local freight. You do national truck. So I work for a switching and terminal railroad. I don't work for a railroad that does the long road hauls. So you do something that I probably couldn't do, and that's because I'm not to put you down. You have a family, but I've got a wife. I've got 2 kids, and one of the hardest things for me was to be away from my daughter because my son wasn't around when I was still in the military. My son's only 2. I got out of the military 5-6 years ago. 5-6 years ago. I got out in 2011. So being away from my daughter was probably one of the reasons I got out. Had I not had my daughter, I probably would have stayed in the military.
You would have made it like a career out of it, I guess you could say?
Yeah, absolutely. I love the job.
Now, going back to that, before you got back to civilian life and stuff like that, had it crossed your mind at all, maybe when you got back to continue it, maybe like on the weekends, like day reserves or anything like that?
The strongest motivation for me was to make sure I'm home for my family. After a second deployment, I didn't want to be away from family anymore. So I knew that if I had stayed in National Guard or reserves, the likelihood of getting deployed again was still pretty high. So when you sign in with the military, they make everybody sign an 8-year contract. 5 years of me was active, 3 years was inactive. Before they would call a national draft, they would call the inactive people back to active duty. It's called mustering. That was only mustered once in the 3 years. Once I was inactive, and at this point, they can't really call me back unless they call a national draft again. So I didn't want to pursue the reserves or National Guard personally because I didn't want to get called to deploy again.
Right. Now, isn't there like a certain age that you reach that even though they could, do the national calling or whatever you just called it, that they won't call you because you have reached a certain age that you no longer, they can't use you? Or
there probably is. At this point, it's probably the rules of the national draft. I would assume that if they were to invoke a national draft, they would probably call former service members, and they would probably call the younger ones up to the older ones. I would probably be later in the pecking order now that I'm pushing. I just reached 40 back in March. So,
right.
I mean, there's no guarantees. I mean, if they decided that they were short by journalists alone and they were fine with infantry, that would put me at the top of the list. So, I mean, there's no guarantees in the military. There's always something they call the needs of the Army. If they decide they need a certain amount of people in a certain area, even if they've got people in other areas, they'll make sure that they manage people to be in the areas that they need them to be in.
Okay.
Well, sorry, I got a little sidetracked there. I'm trying to do like 3 different things right now, so I apologize. Now, we talked about you leaving your family for the first time, going overseas, but what was it like when you were on leave and you got to come home knowing you had to leave to go back overseas again? Was that more difficult than leaving the first time?
I think so. I think it was harder to go back, but in some way, I knew that my fellow soldiers needed me to be there as well. So going there, deploying before everyone's still at home, so there's not that involved. So, but knowing what I'm going back into also made it harder. So I mean, it's there's some things that make it harder going initially, and there are some things that make it harder to go back after you're on R&R. It's nice to, after working at least 12-hour days, 7 days a week, to get, a week and a half before you got to fly back.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, you also know what you're going back to. Now, I did 2 deployments. The first deployment, I said, I want to be one of the last ones. So I let, excuse me here.
I thought you turned that off. What the hell, man?
It's the home phone. It's not my cell phone.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
I decided I want to be. They give everyone a selection. You want to go early? You want to go late? I said I want to go late. I just, because I was one of the last people to get there, and part of that was because they sent me for additional training for satellite transmissions. So I actually arrived in Iraq about 2 weeks later after everybody else. I said, everybody's spent at least 2 weeks longer here in Iraq than me, so I want to do the fair thing. I'd be one of the last people to go. The problem with that was I was getting tired. I was seeing all these people leaving tired and coming back being energized and full of life again, and I was like, I just need a break and not having it. So that was hard for me. Seeing everybody go and come back and full of energy, and I was tired. I needed a break. What was nice about that, though, and when I came back, I think I had like 6 weeks till I got back home again. So that first deployment, knowing what I was going back to, but knowing I was going to come back, spend a couple of weeks until a unit came in that had to replace us, and I had to spend more time training that unit than to do the actual functions myself.
Mm-hmm.
That was nice. Having to have it done again, I said, well, I'll go exactly in the middle, if they'll let me. And I requested that. Again, I got about in the middle of my deployment. That was nice as well. But then when I came back, I knew I had this long block of time to be coming back to. So
I guess that could have made it a little bit easier.
Yeah, I think it's difficult no matter what, because I mean, you're either you go at the end and you're tired in the beginning, but then I had a nice energetic ending. But then the second deployment, I had it in the middle. I had that boost in the middle, but then it got back to being tired again. So if I ever had to go again, I probably would do what I did the first time, knowing the difference between the two. I don't know. Grass is always greener on the other side. You always think.
True.
I think it was easier the other time, but I think it's difficult no matter what.
Now, here's something I want to throw out there. Going forward again, you now completed your contract with the military. You're now home, going home permanently. What are some of the things that you were used to in the military that now that you're back here with civilians, and what are some of the things that you had to get used to or reintroduced to go along with everyday life? Getting up in the morning, going to work, stuff like that. Or
well, I mean, when you're in the service and you're at home, you're still technically doing about a 12-hour day if you really think about it. I mean, you got to get up at dark 30, go in for PT, you get a break for breakfast, but then you got to go back to work. You got to put in the morning shift, go to lunch, come back, put in that shift.
Well, let me rephrase it. What I mean is, okay, you're in the military, you're used to doing everything a certain way.
Right.
So now that you're home, when you get up in the morning, you ain't going to do anything. You're no longer there. So now you got to get when. What are some things that you...
Josh,
I think getting it out of the zone.
Yeah, you're a little bit out right now. Hold on a few minutes, and when you stop freezing, I'll unmute you so you can talk. Yeah, I know you can't hear right now.
I know what he's asking. Is there a difference between working in the military and has it changed me as a civilian, or is that what you're getting out of it?
I think that might have been where he was going with it.
What I'm saying is there different, there's things that you did.
Josh, you're gone, buddy. You're gone.
I don't have my life as structured. I feel like I have more control over the things that I do in my life.
All right, let me see if I can convey what he's trying to ask. Maybe I'll get it right, maybe I won't, but it'll be what it'll be. I think what he's trying to ask you is, some people come back from overseas and they're suffering with PTSD, and they're trying to kind of regather themselves up to become a viable part of society again. Was there anything that you experienced that you felt as if you had to kind of recollect or kind of put yourself back together to re-inject yourself into society, and from the things that happened overseas?
I don't think so. Not me necessarily. I went to theoretically the front lines, but I was only there for about a week and a half. Mm-hmm. There was some kick up in Sadr City in Baghdad in March of 2008 that I was tasked with covering what the soldiers were doing there, but it was really the Iraqi army that was leading the initiative. So it's tough to call it the front lines. It's as front lines as it got for the U.S. soldiers, because the Iraqi army was technically being trained to be the front lines at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Did I see anything that scarred me for life? No. Do I understand why some soldiers have trouble accommodating? Absolutely. It's I don't know. I don't have any other.
No, it's fine. It's just, it was just one of those things I think he was kind of just curious about because, it's Josh and that's how he rolls.
Okay.
I actually did have one more question before he asked you, what was it like coming home? I was actually going to ask you, did you happen to see any of like the combat areas? And, if you did, what kind of stuff did you see in those areas?
I'm trying to think of what I would be allowed to say because don't want to necessarily give away information that would help anybody that has an intention to harm us.
In that case,
I saw a brotherhood of soldiers wanting to protect each other and make sure that we all came alive home from the mission. Mm-hmm. We always covered each other's back. We didn't do anything without making sure that we always covered each other's six. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? There are friendships that I made while I was in that time that I will never lose. That I have a closer kinship with than even some friends at home. I don't know how else to put it.
No, that's fine. I know some people can't see the chat that's going on YouTube, but if you do happen to have any questions on the right-hand side of that stream there, you can pop your questions in there. We'd be more than happy to ask them for you just to kind of get it out there and see what you have to say about it. Other than that, I think we may have lost Josh.
Oh, that makes that's the counterbalance the extra one person that's watching.
I'm back.
No,
oh,
I'm down to 3 after I said that.
I said he's like, no, I'm back. I'm still here. All right, well,
I'm back.
It's back to 4 watching.
No, it's still 4, yeah, but it overnight it'll get a bit more. It'll get a bit more tomorrow too. It's just, it's just a weird time to do a show. Period. Let's just say.
So let me ask what I was trying to ask before. I'm gonna put it in terms that maybe you'll understand it better. All right, okay. I drive a truck for a living. Okay. I'm on the road constantly. This is the life I live. I don't, this is what I know. I had already gotten off the road once before. Okay, now I had to acclimate myself to every day, going to bed, sleeping my 8 hours, getting up, like 9 o'clock in the morning versus 3 or 4 in the morning to do a job, and then I'm done by 5 o'clock, and I'm not in a truck anymore. So now I go home. So basically, I was trying to ask you, like, what were some of the things that you had to get used to doing in everyday life once you got back to civilian life versus what you did in the military?
I don't think there's the world of difference of what I had to really change. It was nice not having to wake up early in the morning to do physical training or to keep my body weight below a certain point. When I joined, I was 29, so I was already easily adding on pounds. So while I was in, I had to watch what I eat. And I still do in a way, but I mean, it's because I want to, not because I have to. But I mean, did I have to change much after leaving the military? I don't think so.
Real quick, Mark wanted to ask you, what is your opinion of some soldiers who showboat their time in the military?
Here we go.
Hey, listen. I think it's a good question because you do have some of those people out there.
I agree.
I highly frown upon the people that steal valor. The people that say, "Oh, I got this award and I got that award," and they really didn't get those awards. I really have no respect for those type of people. The people that get in just to get paycheck and just to show up, I don't have a whole lot of respect for them either, but they did volunteer, at least when I was in during the time of war. So they get a little bit of respect from me for having the cojones to join during that time.
Yeah.
But I don't want to say a whole lot of bad about other people.
Well, it's, we're not talking about anyone in particular, so I mean it's okay to embellish a little bit. It's just like, with any other job. If someone's trying to say, hey, I've done this or this or this or this, and they're full of shit, you
Right.
call them out on it. And I think that should happen, especially in a military setting, where you've got some guys out there running the front lines getting shot at, and, really risking their lives. Then you got other guys, sitting in a cubicle going, and then they're telling everyone, they were in the military and, they killed 17 people and, saved their entire troop from something. That's just, that's showboating bullshit. It's time to let it go.
I actually had a guy that I was talking to.
By the way, thank you, Mark.
Ago, and he, he said he was in the military and he did this, he did that. He actually had the nerve to brag about the fact that he had to shoot children. I'm like,
see, that's
to me that's just ridiculous. That they're, I mean, the guy is no longer around.
Unfortunately, I did meet quite a lot of people that were quite like that. People that were like, "Oh, I killed this person. I killed not just children, but that you have that to some degree." I'm not that crazy about those type of people, but
it's disgusting. If you ask me, that person, that's a disgusting human being right there. To be able to sit there and say that they enjoyed shooting children. I mean, that's
there's something wrong with up here, and unfortunately in those sorts of circumstances, sometimes that is a necessary thing to do, especially when some of them are carrying RPGs or machine guns or whatnot. I mean,
some of these guys that were doing bragging like that as a means to cope with their PTSD, they might be joking about it, but then seriously, crying about it in their hooch back.
Yeah.
Right.
During their off time, guys get together and they like to brag about certain things.
I mean, it's like coming from like a civilian standpoint to hear something like that's you don't hear people saying stuff like that out here. So for somebody to say that, that's like a big like whoa.
It's a little bit crazy, man, but damn, dude, that's it's just one of them things, dude.
I do have a question. I have a friend of mine who was in the military. Shout out to Curly. He was in the Marines.
Yeah, Curly was in Marines.
He had told me a story. Actually showed me a video of him actually getting a Humvee stuck in the mud. Have you ever done that?
Guys, are you reading the comments?
Let's see. Oh, yeah. You're welcome, Mark. Mark Sr. said, no, thank you for the honest answer.
Thank you for participating in the chat tonight, Mark. We appreciate it. And listen, the more people you can have come over and chat with us on here, the more successful the show will be. And, we can get more people like Kaz on here and kind of get their view of the things that happened over there. Maybe next time we can get someone from like the Navy or the Marines, we'll get a seaman on here. I mean, we got a sperm whale, but now we need a seaman.
hey, are you looking
hanging there, fucking 4 eyes?
You looking to see how many are watching right now, John?
Yeah, I see it.
Didn't I say I would double your audience?
Hey, you did. Wait a minute, there's 6.
I just want to say thank you for your service. I appreciate it.
I
it
agree.
was an honor.
I agree, man.
It was an honor. Thank you for supporting the military.
I actually myself was going to join, but unfortunately they basically told me I was too fat. But I once back in the day in high school, the Marines that came to the school, put up their little table, their little pamphlets, wore their gear,
Hate to say it, Josh, but you and Phil now have something in common. Because he wanted to join the Navy, and they told him the same thing. So
Yeah. I couldn't join.
Well, his problem was probably because he wouldn't be able. He'd float too much, and they'd see him.
I tried. I tried to get in, but they wouldn't take me because they said I had flat feet. They said that I couldn't join because I had flat feet, and I've never heard such a thing in my life, man. I was like, what the hell does that mean? You know, I was going to go in to do, you know, I don't know what I would have done, but I think I would have enjoyed it because I went to military school.
I actually had it down to the what I wanted to do. Like I had it that thought out. Like, to go back to what you said, you know, it's not just something you jump into on a whim. Well, I had been thinking about it. I mean, I wanted to literally go in there, and I wanted to do I forget the technical term for it, but basically, you know, you defuse bombs or
EOD, explosive ordnance disposal.
Exactly. Yes, that's what I wanted to go and do.
That's scary, dude. That's scary.
You wanted to be the Hurt Locker guy.
Yeah. Boy, that guy. I mean, they wouldn't really. All they need to give him is a plastic bag, and the rest of it would just stop at Josh, you know. And just...
Shit. And the other thing that I wanted to do, which my good friend, aka brother, Hurley did, he was a sniper. I also wanted to do that, do the spotting and the sniping. But unfortunately, they told me no. And this is the one thing maybe you can answer for me that I don't understand. You know, I thought basically boot camp or basic training, whatever you want to call it, was to get you to the shape that you needed to be to start getting into the more grueling things. So basically, what my thought of as it being like that is, all right, I might be a little bit big boned, but, you know, I'm going to go in there. By the time I'm done basic training, I'll be fit, you know, or where I need to be. And I thought that's
not fully. No.
May I?
There's a certain standard you got to meet to just join the military. Then there's an even higher standard to meet just to graduate basic, and then there's an even higher standard once you're actually in active duty that you have to meet.
Oh, okay.
So they have a guideline, Josh, and I think it's like you can't be more than what, like 13% over or something like that. It's a very obscure number. Like, if like my height, I'm 6'2", I should weigh 186 pounds. I think they say it is. So I couldn't be above 210 to join.
Body mass index, I think.
Yeah, the BMI. Right? Yes.
Yeah.
If your BMI is too off, then you know they won't even look at you. Yeah. They'll tell you to hit the gym, work out, and reapply when you've lost weight. That's what they'll tell you. Phil,
I mean, I really wanted to do this. Like I wanted to do something for my country as well, and you know, I was really 100. I was ready to put 150% in and do it, and everything. Especially since my stepdad, he was in the Army as well. He was stationed over in Germany. He did 4 years over there. But of course, back when he was in there, there was no wartime going on or anything like that. But that was part of the persuasion, I guess you could say, that wanted me to experience that, and the discipline thing and the organization that you gain from it. But if there's anything else that you could say that you gained from being in the military, what would it be?
Not really sure. What did I gain? I kind of covered that before, planning ahead for what I do, planning for emergencies, being more organized, and wanting more variety in my life instead of just seeing the same walls every day. I mean, I pretty much covered all of those before.
Yeah. But I know you got to get to work. I know it's that time, so we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. I just want to say, Kaz, thank you so much for coming on the show and talking about your experience in the military. I hope more people get to watch this and they can kind of, open their eyes to, what it's like through the eyes of someone who's been through that, who's actually, sat here and just told the story of it. And, I think it's awesome that you did what you did. Thank you for your service, man. I appreciate it.
You appreciate it.
The least roasty roast show.
Yay. Hey, nice, easy one. Guys, have a good night.
Later, big titties.
perfect argument for birth control.
Next I throw it on them big fat titties, and I'm looking for some bitches I can take back with me. Next I throw it on them big fat titties, and I'm looking for some bitches I can take back with me. Next I throw it on them big fat titties, and I'm looking for some bitches I can take back with me.
Your grandfather bought me.
Throw it on them big fat titties, and I'm looking for some bitches I can take back with me.
Try not to die